Yeah, we'll have them up here till probably 10, like 15, maybe 20. I'll put you as Cooper. I'll put you as far away tomorrow. How about that? All right?
Appreciate it.
All right, you got it, man. Okay. We have Duke head coach John Shire. We have the starters from last night's game. Once again, we're going to we'll start with an opening statement from coach, then we'll go to questions for the student athletes. We'll have them here for about 15 minutes, and then they will head off to the breakout rooms where they will be able to do a little more one-on-one stuff with you guys. We'll keep Coach Shire here and go to questions for him. Sessions will all end around 3:30. So, Coach, if you want to start with an opening statement.
Well, I'll be brief. I don't have a lot of new from last night. Just that I'm really proud of our team for what we did. You know, looking back, Arizona made some tough shots, made a great run, and I thought we learned a lot from last night. Alabama, clearly they're a high-powered offense and a great team. We know it's going to be a big-time game tomorrow. For me, being in Elite Eight games, it's the toughest one. You know, it's the highest level. But for our team today, we'll dive into them some more, and I'll let you guys ask these guys questions first. But we couldn't be more excited and ready and prepared for tomorrow.
Okay, do we have questions for the student athletes at this time?
Great to see you guys.
Don't everyone go crazy. We'll go here in the front row. Reminder, give name and affiliation before asking your question.
Matt Norlander, CBS. Actually, I'm genuinely curious. How many hours of sleep are you guys on right now before we really dive in?
We'll start with Cooper and go down the row. How about that?
Not sure. Probably. Let me count. Maybe like 6, 7 hours of sleep, maybe.
You're well rested, man. All right, no worries on that. Gosh, you got me beat. Tyrese, for you, having been in this spot specifically, and the guys with you, not necessarily as much, what is the difference between preparing for a Sweet 16 game versus an Elite Eight game?
You're playing for a championship. I mean, it's going to be a high-level game, and I think we've done a great job just taking it one game at a time and not looking too far ahead or in the past. And like any other game, just focusing on what we have to do leading into this game is the most important thing.
Anyone else for anything? We got on the other side here in row 2.
Cooper, this is Adam Rowe, 24/7 Sports. I was just wondering if there was a moment last night in the second half, despite the comeback, when you guys realized that you were going to win this game and move on to the Elite Eight.
I wouldn't say there was a moment that I could look back to or anything. I mean, I thought we just did a good job of, staying level-headed through their run. I mean, they made a great run. We're coming back, but I thought we did a good job of just sticking to our game plan and just doing what we do.
We're going to stay on that side, standing up. Roger.
Roger Rubin from New York Newsday. I could really ask the question to any of you, but Cooper and Sion and Khan. Now that you guys are in the NCAA tournament, Is there ever any sort of feeling that sort of hangs over you about like every game could be the last game for this collection of players that's played so well together?
Why don't we do Common, then Sion, then Khan on that one?
Nah, I mean, that comes to our mind too, knowing that this could be the last game, so that we attack it harder and go in with the mentality to win and be prepared as the same way we prepare for every other game.
Sion?
Yeah, we largely prepare the same way. The biggest difference, I'd say, is there's just a heightened sense of urgency, recognizing that, I mean, your season's on the line all year, but your season is most directly on the line in these tournament games. And we just allow it to help us with our sense of urgency preparing for everything.
And Khan?
Yeah, I think in tournament games, each possession means a lot more than it does in the regular season. So you're trying to live and die by each possession, and obviously you gotta have a next play mentality, but the importance of each possession can't be overlooked.
We'll go back to Roger. Go ahead.
I guess since Tyrese and Cooper haven't kind of checked in, I was sort of looking for more of a, like, how well connected you guys are and how you feel about this group of people and the chance that it could be the last time that you guys play together, because it seems like you guys really enjoy playing together.
We'll go with Tyrese, then Cooper.
Yeah, I think I sort of said it all year, just trying to cherish the moments that I get with this group. Obviously, I think we knew from day one we had a special team, and I think just the connection that we share off the court, allowing us to play as well as we do on the court, is really cool and something that I haven't really been a part of in this sense. But I think it's just going out and just having fun. I think we all enjoy playing with each other, and that's why we play so hard for each other.
And Cooper?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes kind of to what you mentioned about every game could be our last. So I think exactly what Tyree said. I'm cherishing these moments together, knowing that every game could be our last one together. So just, playing for each other and having that connectivity is kind of what's got us to these moments all year long. So just trusting what we've done all year long, trusting each other, and just following the game plan.
All right, we're going to come back to the other side of the room at the end of row 2 over here.
Brendan Marks from The Athletic. Cooper, you've said that playing in the NCAA tournament was always your dream growing up. As you've gotten to actually experience it now and the further you get in, how has it compared to your expectations, and has the feeling changed the further you guys go?
Yeah, I mean, it's a surreal feeling being here. I think I can speak for myself and all these guys. Like, these are the moments that you think about growing up, being in these big-time games, big-time moments together. So, I mean, it's just a surreal feeling, and I wouldn't want to be with anyone else.
All right, we're going to go back across to this side of the room. We got 2 of them in row 3. We'll start on the end. Go ahead.
Kaplan, the Duke Chronicle. For Tyrese and Sion, can you guys talk a little bit about what it's going to take defensively to limit Alabama on the perimeter?
Let's start with Tyrese and then go to Sion.
I think just sticking to our game plan. I think we have a great game plan going into the game, and just not changing what we do. I think when we play together on the defensive end and stay connected, we're the best defensive team in the country.
Sion?
Yeah, Tyrese said it. Our game plan is just doing what we do all year. They're obviously a really good offensive team, but we've gotten to this point being ourselves, and we're not going to stop it for Alabama or anybody else.
We're going to stay there in row 3 in the middle. Go ahead.
Alejandro Lopez, Zach Blog. Cooper, the great Brian Scalabrine has talked so much about how when he was 14, when you were 14, he was calling Duke and telling them to recruit you, and they were blowing him off. Do you remember what it was like when you first started getting recruited from Duke, and when they were first receptive for you?
Can you repeat that last part?
Do you remember what it was like when Duke first started contacting you and what that early recruitment process was like?
Yeah, I mean, I first, got in contact with Coach Shire. I was, didn't really want to answer the phone. But I was, I'll answer him anyway, give him a chance. No, I mean, it was obviously kind of like a dream come true when you get contacted by a place like Duke. So just, to hear from him, it was just really cool, and then to start and build that relationship.
We'll do 2 more questions. We'll stay on that side in the back, and then we'll come back down here to you, Matt. In the back on that side, yep.
Jamal Murphy, Hoops HQ. To the players, just the first thing that comes to mind when you think about this Alabama matchup as it pertains to that team specifically.
Why don't we start with Common?
I mean, It's just we know it's gonna be a war. It's gonna be a battle, especially on the glass. So it's gonna be a physical game. So that comes to my mind when I think about that team.
Sion?
Yeah, they're very talented and they play hard. So it's going to be, like Kaman said, it's going to be a fight.
Khan?
Yeah, obviously, SEC team, they're battle tested, so we'll be ready to go.
Tyrese? Sure. We'll go down the row. Tyrese, then Cooper.
It's going to be a war. It's just going to be a war.
And Coop.
Nothing to add.
All right, we'll come back here. Last question for the student athletes up here in front with Matt.
I think I need more on that Scalabrini stuff, but we can pass along for now. Con, from what you've seen so far of Bama on tape and what the coaching staff has told you, has there been a team that runs the kind of stuff they run that you have faced this season? And if so, which teams would apply in terms of the closest prep you've seen up close and personal over the past 30-plus games?
I mean, I don't think a lot of teams play like Alabama does. You know, obviously they have the fastest pace in the country, so I don't think I could point out one team that plays like them.
Okay, we're going to dismiss the student athletes. They're going to head to the breakout rooms, so you can join them. Like I said, you're heading out. We'll have people that are directing you. Hopefully you got your sneakers on and not shoes. Got some steps coming in. We will open it up to questions for Coach Shire. Once again, we'll get a microphone to you. Just give your name and affiliation. We'll start in the back, standing up. This side over here.
Connor O'Neill with Devils Illustrated. John, I know Malik didn't give you many minutes yesterday, but the 4.5 that he did seemed pretty valuable with Kaman and Pat both in foul trouble. What did you see from him, and how has he responded, and what do you think, just overall, what do you think of his ability to come back and play so shortly after suffering the injury again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks a lot about who Malik is and what he's all about. Look, he's not 100%. He's not close to it. And ideally, he wouldn't have played in last night's game. There was more in an emergency. All of a sudden, Kaman got 2 fouls and Pat got 2 fouls. I thought he did some really good things in his minutes. We're going to have him ready to go again in the next game. And he's been a key guy for us all year round. And, you know, what he does doesn't necessarily he doesn't shoot a lot, you know, so it's about his health and physical readiness, and he just wanted to give it a shot for us, and I think that says a lot. Want to protect him at the same time, and you're balancing when he's fully ready with also the time is running out for the season. So that's been a balancing act for me, to be honest. It's been something we've struggled with, but the fact that his mindset is to do whatever to help us win, I think is an incredible thing as a coach, to have a guy that thinks that way.
We'll stay on this side. We'll start at the end of row 1. We're going to come to row 1, and then we'll stay in row 1. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Eddie Pels with AP. I was just curious what you think of kind of the three-point-itization of basketball that, especially on the NBA side, has gotten a lot of comment. You know, last night's games were exciting, but Alabama shot a couple of them. And do you think it's ever going to go back?
I don't think, unless the rules change, I don't think it can go back, because at the end of the day, it's math, you know, and the math, just when you have that big of an advantage of hitting threes, and obviously the math of getting rim attacks and dunks and layups and getting to the free throw line, it just doesn't make sense to shoot other shots. And I think last night you saw with really all those teams, all of us that played last night, a lot of threes, but also a lot of rim attacks, and which opens up the threes. And so the more I've learned, you know, it's way different than even it was when I was a player. I mean, I just think it's about the math. And I still think it's an exciting game, but I'm sure that the game will evolve somehow. You know, it always evolves. I'm not sure what that is right now, but no, I don't think it can change, you know, anytime soon.
We'll stay here in the front row.
John, Bama gets up and down the floor. You had the late game. Now we have the late game tomorrow as well, but you want to give you guys time to rest and recover. How do you best prepare your guys to be able to go the way that you know Bama's going to want to dictate the pace in this game tomorrow night.
Right, and for us, I think that's the key. I mean, obviously, we're really explosive in transition as well, but we have to pick our spots too, you know. And the recovery's tough. I mean, our guys didn't get back until about 2:30, you know, last night, you know, until it was all said and done with treatment and everything like that, and let them sleep in today. Gave them an initial scout on Alabama, and we'll have to do another deep dive tonight. And then it's a good thing we have the late game. I'd rather have the late game after doing that last night. But knowing our guys, I mean, we'll be rested, we'll be recovered, we'll be prepared. Playing 3 games in 3 days in the ACC tournament is tougher than this. But obviously, this is still a quick turnaround, and you're playing against a team, like you said, they're relentless. They're relentless. They don't stop trying to push the pace and push the tempo, so there can't be any relaxing on our end.
We'll go to row 4 on this side, then we'll start getting to the other side of the room.
Matt Rybeltowski with Forbes. John, congrats on the run. Today is the 33rd anniversary of the Leitner shot, and I read that you started dribbling a basketball at the age of 3. Do you remember where you were when you hit that?
Yeah, I remember the game was recorded, and I remember being in, we had like a little, like, I don't even know what to call it, but a little room, just a couple steps, and I had a little Tykes hoop there, and I remember seeing the shot, and then literally the next day, I think it was, I can't remember if it was I think my mom was was Grant Hill. I was Christian Laettner. I think my mom was Grant Hill. My dad was the Kentucky defense, and I think I made 100 game winners that day, being Christian Laettner. And that was what first hooked me into college basketball in a moment that I'll never forget. And it's the best shot of all time in my mind. And then there was really the '94 team that I really followed closely and loved and watched the entire tournament run. You know, Duke lost the national championship that year. But I'll never forget where I was or forget that first moment of watching that shot.
We're going to stay on this side. Go ahead again.
Sorry, just got to follow up. Speaking of the SEC, how do you view the competitive balance of college basketball right now? The conference is pretty dominant, but if you guys win it all, you'll have wins over Auburn, Bama, Tennessee, and maybe Florida. Is it healthy for the sport for a conference to have 3 or 4 teams in the Final Four?
Well, my focus is on Alabama, obviously. But I think it's a credit to what the SEC has done this year. I mean, the investment they've had, the teams they've had, you have to give them a ton of credit. Their league has been awesome this year. And whether that's a trend moving forward or not, I think our league is doing a lot for next year and moving forward. But end of the day, I think it just shows it doesn't matter what league you're from as long as your team is at that level. Like, I don't think for us we're prepared, you know, and I could talk about some of the moments we've been through this season in the ACC to prepare us for this game, to prepare us to play Arizona. But give the SEC a ton of credit this year for what they've done and what Alabama has done. So for me, I don't think it's like you can't beat somebody or that entitles you to anything. But they've had a great year.
Coming to the other side of the room. We'll start on row 2 with Sam.
Hey, Coach. Sam Fetterman from Daily Dose of Hoops. This is the spot where your season ended last year in the Elite Eight. You haven't been to the Final Four as a head coach. You've been there as a player and as an assistant. But coming around at this time, is there anything that you've taken kind of from last year that you're kind of applying and doing a little differently, or what are you doing similarly to try and bust through and make it to the Final Four for the first time as a head coach?
Well, look, I mean, one, you don't take for granted how hard it is to get to an Elite Eight, first and foremost. And so when you're in this spot, you have another opportunity to be back. You want to seize the moment. And frankly, every decision we've made since March 31st of last year was to put ourselves in the same position and have the opportunity to capitalize. And I think the biggest thing to understand for our team and our players is you don't have to do anything different once you're here. You know, you have to do it at a high level, but you don't have to do anything different. And so everything we've done this summer with our workouts, the mental preparation has been building mental toughness and really preparing to be at your best when your best is required. And that's what this game is all about. And, I feel very confident in our team with who we've been at a competitive level that'll be there tomorrow night.
We'll stay on row 1.
Yeah, it's Chuck Culpepper from the Washington Post. I was wondering, you just alluded to how hard this tournament is, and it's knocked you out at just about every stage, and that doesn't make you an exception. But I was wondering, is the Elite Eight, I've heard Bill Self, I've heard Sean Miller say, that's emotionally the hardest place to go out. Is that true? Do you find that true?
I think yes, which means to me it's the hardest game to win because your balance it's two things. One, each team has great momentum, going into this game. No matter who you play, each team has won 3 games in a row. And then obviously you're an inch away from the promised land, going to a Final Four. So I think with that at stake, it brings out really high-level basketball, desperation, the competitive level. And so obviously you're that close. And I've been on both sides. And it's heartbreaking when you lose, and it's the best feeling when you win. And that's what you work for. That's why you recruit. That's why you build the team. And all the time, energy, and all that goes into these moments. So it's an honor to be in this game, and I want our guys to really go for it. Like you have to really go for it in this game.
We'll go to row 3.
Alejandro Lopez, Zach Blog. Coach, Cooper gave us his side of the story, but I'm genuinely interested in hearing what your side of the story is in terms of when you started to notice Cooper, when you recruited him, and what that was like.
Well, heard about Cooper at a really young age. Scalabrini was the first person to make me aware of, basically, this is a no-brainer, and didn't blow him off. Okay, I didn't blow him off. I responded right away and then just followed his progression. I mean, he's only 14 years old at the time. And then I remember watching him for the first time in person when he was 15 in the Nike EYBL Peach Jam. And I remember watching him and saying, Scal is right. It took me about 90 seconds. And from there, it was all out. And, you couldn't, there's certain times you can contact or not or all that, but started to build a relationship, and the rest is history.
We'll go to row 4. We got two in the back there.
Jackson Shanks, Seton Hall Center for Sport Media. Coach, this team is so deep, so talented, but someone we haven't seen a lot of is Isaiah Evans. I know he struggled down the stretch when you guys got into the ACC tournament in the early rounds, but he provided 4 solid minutes yesterday, and especially with a team like Alabama that can speed you up, his three-point ability is something that you could easily value in this matchup. Is there a world where Isaiah makes an impact?
Oh, of course. Yeah, Isaiah, I mean, he's been a key guy for us. And, look, part of our team, there's going to be ebbs and flows in terms of minutes and how that all goes. But Isaiah, I thought he had a great spirit yesterday. Came in, hit a big 3. That's what he does. But he's ready to go. And I think absolutely tomorrow he can make a big difference in what we're doing.
And we'll stay in row 4 next to him.
Jamal Murphy, Hoops HQ. Back to the conferences and the difference between the SEC and the ACC and the perceived strength of each conference. I mean, do you buy into it at all in terms of a team like Alabama or any team in the SEC being more battle-tested and therefore more prepared compared to you coming from the ACC? And I know you just said you've been tested in the ACC, but do you buy that argument at all?
No, I think there's naturally in anything you can take, there's positives and negatives to either thing, right? And, for us, there's no question we're prepared and there's no question they're prepared. Playing different schedule, playing different opponents at different times of the year, they both prepare you in different ways. So, of course you're going to acknowledge the year the SEC had with the credit that you get for those wins or some of the battles. Of course, Alabama's had a heck of a schedule. I feel we have too, but it's been different. And so I don't think that gives them any more of a leg up tomorrow based on conference or ACC, SEC. I've been in the ACC a long time. It's always prepared us and had us ready. And this year is no exception in my mind.
We'll come back to the other side in row 4 at the end.
You guys have shot 60% or higher in each of your last 2 games, and then last night at the 15-minute mark, you were shooting 70% from the field. What sort of explains that? Are you running your sets better, reacting to the leverage of the defense more effectively? Seems extremely impressive. Have you seen a stretch like that in the tournament before?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know we've had teams that have been in a great rhythm. I think for us, it's just about we found our flow in terms of how to play really connected without having to call a set every time down, but we have concepts in what we play out of. And so I think for young players, always understanding what the coverage is, how teams are playing you, and then what's next. So we've worked all summer in the preseason, not about putting in plays, but about working through what's next and how we're going to have our system and flow. And I think our team, the last month of the season, they've really come on strong with understanding how to play together, how to put pressure on the defense, and then how to value the right shots.
Do we have any more questions for Coach? If not, well, we'll take one final one on this side, row 1.
Last night you referred to that you would know a lot more about Alabama by the time you got here today. And I was thinking about, so you've just finished this really emotional game and then you go immediately to study the next team? What's that process like in the wee hours? Are you eager to do it? Does it require any energy products, anything like that?
Yeah, for me, my adrenaline was flowing last night, so I didn't need anything else to drink or any coffee or anything like that. For me, it was literally right to Alabama, watching a ton of film on them. The coaching staff was getting me up to date because they've been working ahead on them. And look, their pace jumps off the chart at you. Just both ends of the ball too. I mean, defensively, they've been really good as well. And you're watching different games, and you're up late. And being in this game last year, I knew for me this is. I was very thankful not to get much sleep last night. That's the best thing, the best issue I could possibly have. And got a couple hours of sleep, woke up, did the same thing, watching them more. And tonight, I'll make sure we get some sleep and all that. But it's all about the preparation, and it's an honor. That's what you want to have. So I'm grateful not to get much rest.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
you.
Coach. Yeah, they'll have open locker room. Yes. What's that? We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. No. What you do is you question Adesina when he asks when I. Okay, we're going to have Alabama up here in just a few minutes. They're supposed to start at 3:40. We'll have head coach and the starters from last night's game. We'll go with an opening statement from coach, and then we're going to have questions for the student athletes. Once we have exhausted those questions, we will excuse the student athletes, send them to the breakout rooms. We'll keep coach here, and we'll have questions for coach. They are scheduled to be here until 4:20. The players are scheduled to be in their breakout rooms until 4:20. Just again, some reminders, if you are not in the press conference area while the press conference is going on, just silence your cell phones, and we ask that you keep the noise to a minimum. If you are in the press conference and want to ask a question, we have microphones on each side. Just raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Just give name and affiliation before asking your question. We also are on Zoom. If you're on Zoom and have a question, use the raise hand function. If we have time, we will get to you. And then the recording of press conferences on cell phones or cameras is prohibited, limited to Hammond Communication and also team videographers for Alabama. Hammond is posting recordings of the press conferences in the NCAA's digital media hub, which is ncaa.veritone.com. There are QR codes on the tables and in the materials table in the back of the room. And then transcripts are being provided by ASAP. They're doing a good job of getting them turned around shortly after the conclusion of each press conference. While we wait for Alabama, I also will remind you that breakout rooms, so to get to the breakout rooms, we will have people outside kind of directing you, but if you want to know, you head out. If you go to the bathrooms, you go past the bathrooms to the end of that hallway. You're going to turn right like you're heading toward the upper press elevator, but when you get to the end of that hallway and it says to turn left for the upper press, you are turning right, and then the rooms will be on your right. But there will be people out there directing you. But that's where the players will be once we dismiss them from this space, and they'll be there until 4:20. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, we have Alabama up on the podium right now. We're going to start with an opening statement from Coach. Then we'll go to questions for the student athletes for about 10, 15 minutes. Once we've kind of exhausted that, we will send them off the podium. They will head to the breakout rooms, and we will keep Coach here, and we'll come back to Coach for his Q&A session. So, Coach, if you want to get us started with an opening statement.
Yeah, I thought our guys came ready to go last night. It's a fun game, but, I woke up this morning and reminded them the job's not done. So while it was fun last night, we got to get locked into Duke, and Duke's obviously really talented. So I think these guys have been good, being able to get locked into a scouting report, getting themselves ready to go. We had a good practice, tried to make sure that going to keep them fresh. You know, we've got Duke causes issues on both sides of the ball. They're top 5 in the country in offensive and defensive efficiency. So, you know, we've got to be really locked in on both sides of the ball. You know, they've got multiple first-round picks, multiple lottery picks, so there's plenty of matchups we've got to be concerned with. Obviously, everybody's going to look to Cooper, and he's a super talented player and really good. So, you know, we're going to have to try different things and see who kind of becomes maybe our best matchup there and see what we can do. But, you know, they've also got some other really good players that are going to play in the NBA a long time. You know, they want to have one of the best rim protectors in the country, and Malawach, I believe I'm saying it right, but he's extremely good. You know, it's hard to score on him at the rim. They got Knipple, who shoots it really well, and Zion James and Proctor, who shoots it great. And, you know, they're good. They've got length everywhere. That's why they're good on defense. And so we're going to have our hands full, but we played against tough teams all year. I think we played pretty well. In our last regular season game, we were on the road at Auburn. You know, Auburn played these guys tough. We played Kentucky. You know, Kentucky beat this team. It was a long time ago. But so I think our league's got us ready for it, but we're going to have to play well.
We'll do questions for the student athletes at this time. Just raise your hand. We'll start here on the end. We have a microphone. Let's get him row 3 at the end.
Matt Norlander, CBS Sports. This is for Mark and Chris. Nate kind of led me into what I was going to ask anyway. Specifically, how does going against the SEC schedule and some of the best teams in that league, how does it benefit you, even if Duke's roster and their style might not replicate with the teams that you faced?
Why don't we start with Mark, and then we'll go to Chris.
Like you said, especially our last 7 games in SEC really prepared us for games like this. You know, especially and SEC is really talented, and this team's really talented. So, like I said, the conference, it really prepared us well, and I feel like we're battle tested.
Chris?
Yeah, just piggyback off what Mark said. You know, we played in a lot of meaningful games against a lot of good teams, so we understand what it takes to win it. We've lost close games too, so we understand the value of each possession and, you know, high-level games like this, so we'll be ready.
We'll be on the other side of the room in row 2.
Jackson Shanks, Seton Hall Center for Sport Media. Grant, Chris, this goes for you guys. How difficult is it to prepare for, like your coach said, a matchup with Kaman, and especially at his size and what he can do?
Let's go with Chris first.
You know, we got you know a great coaching staff that gets us prepared, and a great game plan to how we want to attack that. So, you know, we just listen to them, and the easy part, the fun part is out there, go out there and execute it and, you know, live with the result.
Grant?
Yeah, we know they got a lot of dudes with height, and, I mean, I think their big man's with, like, standing reach is like 9'8" or something crazy. So we know we got to have patience when we get in the paint, and then obviously just keep that in mind for everything.
Clifford, why don't you answer that question as well?
Just watching like a lot of film about them, we know like according to our coach, you just gotta have patience and also be able to move the ball. They jump for everything and they're trying to block every shot, so just gotta be patient with them.
Come to the other side of the room here at the end of row 2.
Adeshina Koiki, a lot of sports talk. This is for any of the players who want to chime in on this. Coach Oates, of course, his background before basketball is being a math teacher. Of all the players here, or even anyone else on the team, who do you think is the best at doing math and the subjects that Coach Oates taught? Algebra, statistics, geometry.
Why don't we start with Mark, and then we'll try LeBaron and see how that goes.
I'd probably go with Max.
I say Max too. Sometimes I don't know what they be saying, but you know, they just pull it out of nowhere and know like where the numbers go. So
I'm gonna say Jaren Stevenson. He's a quiet guy, but he's smart. People don't understand that, but he's a very smart guy, smart player.
Grant or Cliff, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I'd say Max and then Cliff. He was going to school to be an engineer for a little bit. So
I would say my top 2, I would go by Max, me, then Jerry.
Max is studying to be a doctor, by the way. So it's our Charnowski got a little time last night. Smart kid.
Any more questions for the student athletes? If not, we will dismiss them and do we have one, Matt?
For the fellas on the dais who had really nice nights from Beyond the Arc last night, superstitions, habits, what do you do to try and, as best you can, aside from, trust the game plan, we get all that, but just take us into your intricacies of how you will try and best duplicate or try and get close to having the kind of night tomorrow that you had last night from three-point range.
We'll start with Mark and we'll go down the row one by one.
Basketball, it's all about finding the rhythm and having that momentum. And once you come off a game that we had, it's the momentum that's going to carry over the next game.
LeBaron?
I work out with these guys a lot, especially these two on side of me, and, I just get to see the confidence they have and, how they go into games, and I just try to, put it in my own ways. But, just watching them from, a workout standpoint, I know what they give, and I know, what type of shots they're looking for. So for me, it's really just like trying to find them in the right spot.
Chris?
You don't really want to force it. We shot great last night, but you just focus on the game plan, and naturally it'll come because the way we play, the pressure we put on the offense, on the defense, and if we play, selflessly, the shots will naturally come.
Grant?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just getting these guys open. So, just doing what I can to get them the best shot.
Cliff?
According to Grant, getting guys open. We see them in practice, they could shoot the ball, so we just got to get them open.
We're actually going to stay in row 3 in the middle.
Dan Gelson, Associated Press. I know you guys haven't, all been around to follow the ascension for Alabama over the last 5-6 years, however long, 9 years. But do you get a sense that football was always king at Alabama? Do you get a sense that are you guys treated now as the big men on campus too, by fans in town, other people? Do you feel like you're on equal footing or have kind of surpassed them in some ways as far as how people view the two programs?
Let's go Mark, then LeBaron on that one.
I say we're a championship school. Yeah, football, they got 18 national championships, and we're still trying to reach our first one, so it's no comparison there.
I feel like our side of it, is definitely is there, but football-wise, like Mark said, those guys have built a great, foundation program, but Coach, he's getting there, and by the time, it's all said and done, he's gonna be one of the greatest.
Do we have any more questions for the student athletes? Okay, we'll dismiss you guys. They're going to head off to the breakout rooms. They will be there. They're scheduled to be there until 4:20. It is now 3:53 by my clock. So we will have Coach up here. Once again, I see a lot of hands being raised. We're going to start here in front of me. We're going to do front row. The first 3 questions will come in the front row here. Yep, start in the end.
Got the extension approved today for Preston. Just how important was that for you, and how has that role kind of increased in demand in college basketball lately?
Yeah, he's really the one managing the roster, putting it together for next year. I think he's the best recruiter in the country. So, Alabama's showing that they're going to put the resources into being an elite basketball program. We needed to keep Preston around. He's highly sought after across the country, and he likes it in Alabama. His family likes it here. We wanted to make sure we kept him here, so it was big that we got that done. And yeah, I've known him a long time. It's a pleasure for me to get the opportunity to actually work with them. He started recruiting my kids when I was a high school coach back in Detroit. He's from Saginaw, so I sent a kid, E.C. Matthews, to Rhode Island, played for Dan Hurley, that Preston recruited, and our relationship he had even been recruiting kids before E.C. So I've known him a long time. I love working with him. I'm glad the school values him like I do, and it's good to have him around with us moving forward.
Stay in the front row here in front of us.
Nick Kelly, AL.com. Nate, you have the #1 strength of schedule on Ken Palm. How does it prepare you for a matchup like this?
Yeah, I think we've had it back-to-back years now, if I'm correct. Look, Duke's number one on KenPom. We have played other very good teams. I think if you kind of go down that list, we've played Houston, who's up there, Auburn, who's up there, Florida, who's up there, Tennessee, and then I think we're sixth. If you're going off KenPom, I think I looked at it not too long ago. So this is the only one we haven't played that's ranked ahead of us. We split with Auburn. We beat Houston. I cost us that game at Tennessee there at the end of the game. So the players played well enough to beat Tennessee on the road at Tennessee. Florida, we did not beat. So gives us another opportunity to play one of the best teams in the country. I think playing those other teams has prepped us to play a game of this caliber. Obviously, they're different. Nobody had Cooper flag. Nobody's got the rim protection that Malawak has. But those other teams had other things they did well. So you got to put your individual scouting report together. But there's an intensity and a focus and a level of preparation that comes with playing teams of that caliber, and we've done that before. And I think we've been right in those games and done pretty well in most of them.
Stay here, row one, right in front of me.
Hey, Nate, Eddie Pels from AP. I know obviously you're the highest scoring team in the nation, so we all think, or maybe it would lead people to think you don't really worry about defense too much. Could you set the record straight, or is that the truth?
No, listen. So we definitely don't want that to be the truth. We do care about defense. This is my 6th year at Alabama. We've been top 3 in the country in defense 2 of those years, and those years we happened to win the SEC regular season tournament both. We're top 30 in defense this year. If you look at the efficiency metrics, we really try to base the program on effort, toughness. That's why we give the blue collar points out, give out a hard hat award. And, there's more to being a great defensive team other than just playing hard and having some toughness about you. You also got to execute a game plan, and we've got to do that against Duke. So I think the better our defense is, the better our offense is. We're not a program that, I know we just broke Loyola Marymount's record for threes made in a game, but they kind of pressed and gave up lots of layups, and they were okay with giving up points because they just wanted to get points. And that's not the way we play. We don't press. We try to have a sound, solid defense. We've got an NBA guy running our defense, and Brian Adams this year. Before him, it was Charlie Henry, who was with me my first 4 years. He came out of the NBA, so we try to prep our guys for the NBA on both sides of the ball. But we've had games where we've had really good defensive performances. We haven't had a 40-minute where we played great defense for the full 40 against one of these best teams in the country, and we're going to probably need to do that against Duke, in my opinion. But we've shown we're more than capable of being one of the best defensive teams in the country. We just got to do it on a consistent basis, night in and night out. And top 30, a lot of programs would trade places with us. We're still top 30. We're just not top 3 like we've been a couple of years.
I'm going to stay on this side for a few more. End of row 2.
And Luke DeCock from the News and Observer in Raleigh. I'm just curious from an opposing coach's perspective, how does Duke change defensively when Malik Brown is available and when he's not, sort of in your scouting?
Yeah, honestly, I've looked at their games lately, and he hasn't played much here lately, so I haven't seen him play a ton, and I know he's a shoulder injury from what I've read. He's definitely switchable, can move, athletic, a little different, maybe not quite the same level of rim protection maybe as Malawak. I don't know if anybody is. I think he's got a 9'8" standing reach. It's kind of crazy. I told our guys he jumps about that high to dunk the basketball. So, but Malik can move, from what I've seen in some of the games, very athletic. So, I guess they've got different options that they can go to. Patrick's also an option. Most places, all 3 of those guys would be starting, and they've got the luxury of having all 3 of them and go with different options. So, we'll see what they decide to go with, and we've got some different options ourselves, but they know what they're doing over there on that coaching staff. So we'll see if they decide to use them against some of the lineups we roll out there.
standing right there.
Hey, Nate. Right here. Brendan Marks from The Athletic. Just wondering if during the recruiting process, if you guys ever engaged with Cooper at all, if it was fairly certain where he was going, and then also if, as you guys have been studying the tape a little bit more frequently, if your impression of him has changed at all based on what you might have thought earlier on in the season.
Yeah, we never engaged with him. Didn't think we were going to be able to get him at Alabama. I think some other schools tried. I think it was a heavy Duke lean from everything I heard from early on, and finishing second place, you may as well finish 100th place. So there's no point in to get going after that, in my opinion. So no, we didn't. Everything I heard about him was great, though. Unbelievable kid, super hard competitor. As I've watched the film, I mean, I think his IQ, obviously, he's talented. You see the highlight reel plays and how athletic he is, and he plays hard on both sides of the ball. Just unbelievable defender. I think one of the things that stands out is he's really good in kind of pick and rolls, and just his IQ. Like, if you help, he's going to find where the help came from. He's going to find the open man. So, he's as good a passer as he is a scorer, and you kind of all knew how good of a scorer he was. So he makes it hard to guard because you can't really load up on him because they got shooting around him. If you don't load up on him, he's hard to guard one-on-one. So, we're going to have to do our best. But he's also one of those guys that I mean, yeah, like, you're not going to hold him down to 10 points. That's just not happening. Like, let's hold him in single digits. He's going to find his way to score some buckets. That's just it. What you can't have is him scoring 25 and getting 8, 9, 10 assists and picking up all these fouls. Like, you're going to have to decide what you want to do. And some of their guys, you better not help very far off because they can really shoot it. So we're going to have to be on top of our game plan with them and have a couple different options, because I think if you just do the same thing with him all the time, he's smart enough to figure it out pretty quick.
We'll do 2 more here on row 3, row 4, and then we'll go to the other side of the room.
Nate, you were actually just tapping in again to what I was going to ask. From an objective scouting standpoint, what do you think is the more difficult thing to do? To hold Cooper under his averages, or to not allow Alabama to get what it wants from the three-point range?
Ooh. Well, I haven't played Duke yet, so I don't know how difficult it's going to be to hold Cooper under his averages. Some teams have done a good job. I'll say this. If you want to take the 3 away from us, you can take 3 away from us. So I'm going to say it's harder to hold Cooper under his averages because there's a way to take the 3 away from us. Now, we've shown, somebody sent me a stat. We would have won the game last night even if we didn't make it 2. Just based on threes and free throws, we win the game. But we've also played where we've scored almost 70 points in the paint, 2 for teams that are just dead set on. So people ask me, how many threes do you want to get up? Well, depends on how you want to guard us. If you're going to guard us and not let us in the paint, let's get 51 up. And we should have had 52 if Holloway had gotten his foot behind the line on the 1. So, if you want to completely run us off the line, build out on every drive, then, we'll try to go score 70, 75 points in the paint. So for sure you can take away our threes by guarding us a certain way, but then you are going to open the paint up on that. So I'm guessing it's going to be hard to keep Cooper under his averages. I haven't played him yet, though, so you'll have to ask me that after the game.
And we'll go row 4 before we go to the other side of the room.
Chase Goodred with the Tuscaloosa News. I want to ask you a question about pace of play. Obviously, BYU wanted to go up and down with y'all. Duke, Alabama's number 1, I think, in possessions per game. Duke's like 280th. Can you just speak to what you expect in terms of pace of play?
Yeah, I think part of Duke's is, they don't play as fast as we do, obviously. You just gave the numbers. Part of it's their defense pretty good. Teams take a while to score on them, so the better your defense is, the longer those possessions go. Offensively, they're a little bit more deliberate at times. They want to make sure that they get into the same actions. We're a little bit more free-flowing. And, they probably run a few more sets, and we play a little bit more in the flow. But, they're good in transition, though. Like, don't, just because their tempo's not top 100 or whatever. What is their tempo? 200? 274. Yeah, just because it's down in the low 200s doesn't mean they don't get out and run in transition when they get opportunities too. They're still scoring plenty of transition points. Our transition D has to be elite. And you see all the highlight. It's just if they don't have what they're not going to do, from what I've seen, is typically run on makes. You know, they'll set up and run something where we're still trying to play in the flow and run off makes. They won't. So they will opportunistically run, and you better make sure you're back because they got athletes and shooters that will take threes, but they're not going to run every single time on every shot whenever they can like we do.
We're going to go to this side of the room. We'll start in row one.
Hey, Nate. Ralph Russo from The Athletic. I want to take you back to when you were interviewing for this job with Greg Byrne. What needed to be done to create sustainable success in this program? Because you can argue that this program has never had as good a run as this. Maybe not. So when you were thinking about taking this job and what Greg thought might this basketball program become, what needed to be done and what has he delivered on, and you delivered on?
You know, I think the athletic department at Alabama is as good as any in the country. I think resource-wise, I believe there's 6 different sports that have won national championships. So they're going to make sure the athletes are supported, that the coaches have the resources they need to win, and they've done that. Like we're in the middle of building a new practice facility. It's going to be as good as any in the country, in my opinion. New offices, training rooms, strength, all that stuff. They're supporting us with financial resources that they need to. Somebody just referenced Preston Murphy. You know, I think he's top 4 now in the SEC and assistant coaches. So they've given us what we need to in that regard. I think one of the things, you know, we put in a style that kids want to play in. So you obviously, to have sustained success, you need to have good players. We had pretty good players when I got here. You know, Coach Johnson was here before me and had done a pretty good job recruiting talent. Herb, you know, our second year after the system had got in, we got enough pieces around it. But the main guys that we won with that first year, Alex Reese was here last night. He's playing in the NBA right now at a stretch big. Herb Jones has been starting in the NBA since his rookie year. John Petty, leading three-point shooter in Alabama history. They all fit us very well. And we walked into that group. We were able to take that group, add the pieces to it, get it going pretty quick. And what we've been able to do, I think, maybe better now than they had in the past, is recruit nationally. Which, you know, before they kind of recruited a lot more geographically. Now, Petway had gone out and gotten Jaden Shackelford, who was really good from California, so he did a little bit, but not to the extent we've been able to do now. You know, Coach Hodgson, who just got the job at South Florida, was able to do that a little more. Preston Murphy now is recruiting all over the country. So, you know, we're going and getting the best players that fit our system from anywhere. And I think that's what you've got to do to sustain the success. And they've put a program in place and allowed us to do what we need to do to build a program that recruits want to come play in. We've kind of done a study. We've done a better job improving guys' NBA draft stock than anybody in the country since we've been here. And that's a lot of what recruits are looking for. And that's what we've been able to provide. And I think it's helped us, you know, putting an NBA system in and recruiting NBA talent. It's helped us kind of sustain this success over the 5 years now, I guess, is what it's been.
Next 2 questions are here in row 2.
Hi, Steve Weissman, Raleigh News and Observer. I want to ask you about Jaron Stevenson. Given he played such a role in you getting to the Final Four last year with his game against Clemson, he's had kind of an up and down sophomore year. What's your assessment of the way he's played this year? And he's still somebody you can count on for a game like that in a game of this magnitude?
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about that earlier today. You know, he didn't play particularly well in the Sweet 16 game last year against North Carolina. I was hoping he'd play great. He's from Chapel Hill. Like, would have been a great story, but wasn't meant to be that way. So just to encourage him, he comes out and he goes 5 of 8 from 3 and scores 19 points as a freshman. Jaron was supposed to be a senior in high school last year. So this year is supposed to be his freshman year in college. So last year, as a kid that's supposed to be a senior in high school, he scores 19 in the Elite 8 game to send us to a first Final Four in school history. I don't think he gets afraid of the moment at all. You know, as he struggled a little bit, yeah, he's a pretty quiet kid, and he's gone through some slumps as any players do. I mean, shoot, some of the best NBA players go through shooting slumps, and he's had a few slumps. I think he's more than capable of going 5'8" again or doing something great. We're going to need him to be great. I mean, Duke's got size everywhere. His athleticism to guard. I mean, guessing maybe you watched our game when we played at Carolina earlier this year. He did as good a job as anybody on R.J. Davis when we beat Carolina at Carolina. So he's capable of being one of the elite two-way guys in the country with his shooting ability, his finishing, his strength, his athleticism on offense, and then how he can guard guys. And we just need to keep pumping him full of confidence. He's a kid that he doesn't even know how good he is. Like, when you talk to him, he has no idea. I mean, I think he should be a long-time NBA player. I think he should. We got to realize he's young and pump him full of confidence and get him going, because he could be an X factor for us for sure.
We'll stay in row 2.
Roger Rubin from New York Newsday. Nate, you got into pretty good depth about all the different ways that Cooper Flagg can hurt you. I wanted to ask you about a couple of the other guys on Duke. Con Knuppel, how are the ways that, like, you see him as a threat?
I mean, one of the best shooters in the country. We tried to recruit him. We did a pretty good job, and it wasn't quite good enough because I'd like to have his shooting ability in our offense, but they have it. So now we got to figure out how to guard it. I mean, he doesn't miss much. He gets his stuff off actions. He gets his feet set, but he's also a strong physical driver. He's got good size. He can get downhill, and he's super high IQ guy. So, yeah, he's very good. I mean, there's a reason he's going to be a lottery pick this year.
And the other guy I was going to ask you about was Malwatch. You did mention his rim protecting. What are some of the other things that you think he does well?
I mean, he's a lob target. Cooper likes to find him in ball screens going to the rim. You know, when he's kind of down in that dunkers area, if you will, behind the backboard, guys help up. They find him on lobs. So he's done that well for him on offense. And I think the biggest thing he does for him is protect the rim, and he makes it impossible to score at the rim when he's in there. So, you know, they've got top 5 offense and defense, and he kind of anchors that defense. So he's been a lead for him on that end all year.
We'll go to row 4, and then we'll come back to row 3.
Jamal Murphy, Hoops HQ. Back to Cooper, and obviously, you know, very versatile. But what do you think is the biggest strength of his game? And as a coach, what's the first thing you would try to take away?
I mean, I think his strength is his versatility, because if you try to take one thing away, he can go to, you know, like to say, well, let's keep him from getting to the rim because he's such an athletic, strong downhill driver. Well, he's shooting in the high 30s, 36, 37% or whatever it is, and then say, okay, well, I think he's actually better off the dribble than he is on catch and shoot. So then what do you go under on pick and rolls? Well, he's shooting almost 40% on off the dribble threes. You go over pick and rolls, he gets downhill, he throws lobs, he finishes at the rim. Like, look, there's a reason he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. I think you're going to have to mix it up because he's so versatile, and you're going to have to try to, like, keep him off balance a little bit, because if you give him the same dose of everything for 40 minutes, seems like he's got pretty high IQ. He'll figure it out.
We'll go to row 3 here for the next 2 questions.
Alejandro Lopez, Zags blog. Coach, yesterday you talked about how you built up Sears' confidence in terms of his shooting struggles by telling him that there's a thing called regression to the mean. Now, when you go out and you have a record-setting performance like you did yesterday, is there any worry that that regression to the mean might come back to bite you in terms of your shooting?
Well, I think he shot 44% last year, if I remember correctly. So if we go on the last 7 games, he was 5 for 35. What did he go yesterday? 10 for 16. So that's 15 for 51. So we still got some room to go up to get to his 44% he was last year. So let's plan that he was down, and now the regression back to the mean started, and he's continuing to head up that way. That's my hope. But I hope maybe Duke thinks the other way, that he's going to be back. Hopefully they treat him like a 14% shooter and go under every ball screen. That would be ideal.
All right, we'll stay right there, Dan, in the middle.
Dan Gelson, Associated Press. Since you've been hired, I mean, not even compared to really the football program, but how have you seen just in your own in the own program the perception, the popularity, the mood around town, around campus change with you and your players now that it's an elite program?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much every game sold out. The student sections are camping out for big games. We don't play in front of empty crowd. When I first got there, non-conference, I mean, shoot, while football season's still going on, it's hard to get half the place full. Now that we lead the country in scoring back-to-back years, we got a winning program. We've won 4 SEC championships between this, the regular season, the tournament. We've been to Final Four. Like, don't have an issue selling the place out. The crowd support's great. People around town are supporting us. People are stepping up in big ways. Like, it's a sports community, it's a sports state. The whole state of Alabama gets behind Crimson Tide, and we sense that everywhere we go, and I think we see it. So, and shoot, the Roll Tide's kind of across the country, a lot of Alabama fans, and now a lot of that's based on the football program and what they've been able to do throughout many years. But all those Alabama football fans were turning into basketball fans, and a lot of them already were. We just had to resurrect them, bring them out of the woodwork, and they've come, and they're there, and they're there now. So it's been a good time for us that way.
I will take a question here, row 2 at this end.
Coach Adeshina Koike, a lot of sports talk. You put on your math teacher hat just now, talking about Mark Sears' shooting the past few games. I want you to keep that math teacher hat on for this. So many student athletes at the college level and the prep level saw your game yesterday and have seen your teams play at Buffalo and seen your teams play here and would be attracted to your style of play. But a lot of those student athletes and people their age would probably be turned off if they knew your background in math and learning all of the subjects that you taught. When you were a teacher, how did you impress the importance of the algebra and geometry on students then? And how would you address that to student athletes and teenagers who would be turned off by math, especially during a fraught time in education and public education in this country?
It's a good question. I've got 3 daughters. Lexi's a junior in college, so I've had to help her on some math stuff through college. And then Jossie's 15. She's a sophomore. She's a pretty good student, but it does have the question, when am I ever going to use this in real life? Sometimes that's not the point. You need to stretch your mind a little bit and learn how to do it, and who knows when you'll use it. Some of the math I taught and learned, I don't use anymore. But some of the stuff I need to learn a lot better, and you never know where life takes you, so it's always good to stretch your mind. And I got 12-year-old Brielle, and of course, in 7th grade, they're not overly excited about math, but we're trying to get her a little more excited about it. For my students, I try to make it as applicable as you can. Not everything you teach is applicable to everything in life. You just make the point, like, look, man, I like math because it's a puzzle. It's a you get it. There's a right answer at the end. It's not. There's no subjectivity. Thought this paragraph sounded great. This paper, one teacher grades it an A and one teacher grades it a C. In math, it's either right or wrong. So it's a lot more objectivity to it, and get your mind thinking in ways that it needs to get better at. So that's how I just learn the material. I'm going to help you learn it. Different people learn different ways. Try to motivate them to learn. And we do some math lessons with our guys. We kind of go through their shot type reports with them every year. I go through efficiency numbers. It's actually amazing now that you got the transfer portal going. And we don't go to very high level math at all, but it's kind of amazing that how little math as it applies to basketball some of these guys actually know when we get them. So I do put my math teacher hat on occasionally and get up on the whiteboard and start expected value on a shot, how you get that, how you expected value on free throws, all that stuff. So we go through it a little bit.
We got one final question over here at the other end in row 2.
Jeff Borzello, ESPN. Because of the success you've had in the last 5 or so years, I mean, the expectations have skyrocketed. I mean, the second weekend of the tournament is sort of the bare minimum for the program now. I mean, how do you deal with those rising expectations moving forward? And does it add any pressure to just reload your roster to a top 5, top 10 level every single spring?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we'd want it any other way. If you're at a program with no expectations and you've been there 6 years, it means you haven't been doing your job. So we came in, we turned the expectation level around. They're supporting us like a top 10 program in the country. When the administration supports you like a top 10 program in the country, there's an expectation level that's how you perform, and that's how we want to recruit. Now, in a one-game elimination tournament like the NCAA basketball tournament is, that doesn't mean you're going to make it to the second weekend or to the Elite Eight or the Final Four every year. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. I mean, there's very good teams that get upset, and there's still very good teams that had a great year. So, but we want to be in the discussion for a team that can make a Final Four every year. We've been that for the last few years running now. The recruiting's got to stay at a high level. That's why it's a good thing we got Preston on a 3-year contract that came out today, because he's, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best recruiter in the country, and we'll have the talent. We play a system that guys want to come to. But yeah, when you get the players that we've got and you've won at the level we've won, that's the expectation level. And I think that the players understand what they're coming here for. They're coming here to win championships. They're coming here to compete against the best. We've had the #1 strength of schedule in the country the last 2 years in a row. We've led the country in scoring the last 2 years in a row, but we've also won at a pretty high level. Somebody gave me a stat. In Power 5 schools, I think we're 5th in the last 5 seasons in wins, and Duke's 3rd. So we're right up there. We don't have a national championship like some of these blue bloods have, but we're in the last 5 years competing with a lot of the blue blood programs for wins, championships, and all that stuff. And that I like where the expectations are. And I mean, whatever you can call it, pressure, whatever you want, it's expectations. You win. That's what we expect around here now. So we're not going into this Duke game. I know we'll be underdogs. I know they're the 1 seed. We understand all that. Our mindset is we go in, we do what we need to do with the game plan, and we're going to get the win. Now, it's a lot easier said than done, but, we're not going in there just hoping we can play with them. Like, even when I was at Buffalo and we played Arizona, I laid it out. This is what we're going to do, and when we do this, we're going to win the game. And that's what you do. So I think you lay out the game plan. If we execute these things, you keep it as simple as you can, but it's got to be a game plan that when these are executed, you win the game. And that's the expectation going into every game, no matter who we play. And we've played the best teams in the country since I've got here, and we've been able to beat a lot. We've got 13 wins against AP-ranked teams this year, which I think is tied for the most with 2 different Duke teams and the UCLA team for the most in a single year. So we've beaten really good teams this year. We had opportunities to beat some more, and we didn't do it, but we've got another opportunity in front of us tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Coach.